Not yet. I'd like to call the Winterville Town Council meeting to order. Today is Monday, October the 10th, 2022. Welcome to the town of Winterville, to our listening audience and people that are attending out here today. Our invocation today will be given by Minister Selena Hines. If you come to the podium right here. And after she give our invocation, we will have the Pledge of Allegiance, okay? Yeah, just right there.
As we bow our heads, oh, most wonderful, gracious Father, we come to you as humble as we know how. God, first of all, we ask you to forgive us for our known and unknown sins. God, we ask you to make every crooked place straight. God, we ask that we come together today for such a cause. God, we ask that you be in the midst and continue showing up in our lives. God, do what we know that you can do. There's nothing that's impossible without you. Lord God, we lean on to our own understanding, but God, whatever we ask, we delay in asking. God, we ask you do not delay in giving. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. If everyone would please stand, face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, thank you, Minister Selena. And also, again, I'd like to welcome everybody to the town board meeting tonight. Next up is the approval of the agenda. So moved.
Second.
Got a motion made by Councilman Moore, second by Councilman Smith to approve the agenda. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carry. Next up is recognition of our new employees. Turn it over to the town manager.
Thank you, Mayor. We will start with the Public Works Department. Mr. Cliff McGuffin, our Public Works Director, will be introducing them.
Good evening, everybody. You guys step up here for a minute, please. These are our two newest guys come to us. This is Mr. Larry Sutton, Cover Maggie Supply, where he stayed for a long time. We're happy to have him. He's an equipment operator in Public Works. And this is Mr. Kyle Everett. He comes from Pitt County Schools, where he worked on the grounds crew there for several years, and we're excited to have both of them. So, y'all guys got anything you want to say?
We're excited to be here.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Welcome aboard, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Next, we will have introduction by Mr. Robert Sutton. I don't think any kin to Larry Sutton, of a couple of new folks in his department.
You know, to say if you can't be a Sutton, you ought to at least marry one. I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Alex Dixon and Mr. Robert Ricks, or Rob as we call him. Both of these gentlemen come to us with a good bit of knowledge in water and metering. We're looking forward to them growing with us. I think Alex has been with Eastern Pines for a number of years, and Rob is retired U.S. Army. So I always like seeing those guys on board with us. Anything you guys want to say? Just appreciate the opportunity. All right. Thank you.
Gentlemen, welcome aboard. We did have an introduction, hopefully, you'll see on the agenda, Ms. Patricia White, but she was introduced previously as a school resource officer. We do have a third, meaning all of our school resource officer positions will be filled once Ms. Sydney Eubanks comes on board. And she's not with us this evening, but Chief has agreed to have her come hopefully to the next meeting and be introduced. So I'm excited to report that all three of those positions, as of Thursday, I believe, will be filled.
Okay. Again, as the town manager stated, welcome aboard to our new employees. Glad to have y'all here with the town of Winterville. And next up, we have a proclamation by Mr. Harvey.
Yes, we have two proclamations that we'll have done this month. One is Fire Prevention Week, and Chief, do you have anything to say for Fire Prevention Week? let the proclamation stand on its own then. And before we meet again, we will, Veterans Day will come around, Councilman Moore. So we will proclaim November 11th as Veterans Day. And I believe probably in your report, you'll mention something about the Veterans Day ceremony.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, next up, we have some presenters. We have Vision Zero Traffic Safety, Ms. Ellen Walston, ECU Health and Medical Center. If she would step to the podium, and I think she has some more people with her.
Friends. Thank you, Mayor, and the entire council. It's just an honor to be able to speak with you tonight, and lots of my friends behind me, department heads. And we just wanted to come and talk with you about Vision Zero. I hope you have in your packet 2 handouts that I had sent Mr. Harvey. And just very quickly, Vision Zero is not a new concept. This actually has been around for a while. It's been in other countries, Sweden primarily, and it seems like a lofty goal when we talk about Vision Zero in regards to traffic safety, because our goal is no deaths. That's absolutely none. Because if I asked any one of you, or any of the folks behind me, or anyone in the audience, if it would be okay for one of their loved ones to be killed in a traffic safety crash, it's not an accident, you would all say, no, I don't want it to be my loved one. So it isn't a lofty goal, it's a very reasonable goal, and we have worked really hard with the city of Greenville to have a task force. We were #1 in the state for many years for crashes, and pretty embarrassing because that's one place you don't want to be, #1. And we have moved to #7 and now #8. So we have pulled together a task force of leaders and done some really remarkable things in Greenville, and I have Stephen Hardy-Braz and Dave Manning with me from our Vision Zero team. We've been trained at UNC by the Highway Safety Research Center and would really love the opportunity to work with Winterville, because I have had some experiences very positive with this town, which is my city, in the past, and would love to have the opportunity to make Winterville. We know it's already safe from Chief Wilhite's perspective, but we want it to be safer with traffic as well, because this is a very super safe community, and I'm blessed to live here. So just the main vision statement that we have is to really be able to expand our efforts in Pitt County. We are the only Vision Zero team in the state that focuses on a county perspective, because we know that we have lots of municipalities that would love to join our efforts in making Winterville and other towns a Vision Zero community, and we would like to extend that invitation, and I'm going to let Stephen share some details with that, but we are not coming to say this is what we want to do. It's working with you, with department heads, with leaders, with the community to really make a Vision Zero community here in Winterville, and to gather your ideas, work together as a team, and make this the best place ever. So thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. If you have questions, we will certainly address those, and I'm going to let Stephen speak next. Thank you.
Good evening. Again, thank you for the opportunity. On average, 43,000 people are killed every year on the highways of the U.S. This is rising. That's unacceptable. We know that the task force in Reedy has done some great things to improve some intersections and reduce these fatalities and injuries through great driver's ed training, as Councilmember Moore, leads and things. But we can do better in our design. We can do better with our enforcement. We can do more in prevention rather than responding to crashes and deaths. Because none of us want to lose any loved ones or neighbors. Winterville being one of the fastest growing parts of Pitt County, we want to work here too. We want to help you grow in a wise, respectful way, but work together. And building upon the statewide bike and walk summit coming to Pitt County in a few weeks, also the traffic garden that's being built here, and the excitement of the town manager and the mayor for these things, we thought we'd bring here and offer to you to work with you to establish a task force in Winterville of your choosing to be one of the first communities in Pitt County. And the mayor of Bethel already heard about this and wants to be the very next one. So what we want to do is take what Greenville has done successfully and expand to the entire county. So no matter where you go, travel, to visit, to work in Pitt County, you're safer. So I think any one of us can see the traffic that's growing, the congestion. And when we look at places like Reedy Branch Road, a state road, but that bisects Pitt Community College, and I can hear from my colleague about how many times somebody's nearly hit or killed when there's one crossing on Reedy Branch Road in the middle of campus. We see the growth on Worthington Road, and the speed traps. We see, what used to be a quiet road, a fire tower, or old tar, has development grown, and the intersections are different. So I think it would behoove us to look at these things in a systematic way and think about prevention before we do have more crashes and injuries and deaths. I would imagine if we asked at the fire department or the police department to name the top 10 intersections they get called out to often, they could do it in minutes. So why don't we get those people together and start saying, okay, so how do we redesign these intersections? How do we redesign these roads? What policies can we enact or develop that make our community a better place, a more quality, safer place, and improve the slice of life here in Winterville? So what we're asking for you is to develop a proclamation that maybe lead to a policy, but a proclamation and give us permission to work with your town staff, members of the community, to build a task force that can address these issues. And of course, the commission of that would be all up to you about how many people you'd like, but just to give us some guidance to work with you if you're interested, so we can move ahead with this. Are there any questions or anything we can answer at this time?
We know that the most dangerous intersection in Winterville, the Pitt County, is Mill, Highway 11, Davenport, and Vernon White.
Yes, sir.
But we don't get any support in the Metropolitan District for funding that intersection.
Mm-hmm.
We know it year after year. We do nothing about it because we're outnumbered on that board. And sad. Of course, my son died 2 months ago in a car accident at the age of 45.
I did not know that. My condolences, sir.
I had a mother who had an accident at 16 that I looked after for 43 years from a car accident. So I'm very knowledgeable. Of course, Councilman Smith runs the North Carolina Driver's School for the last 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
We are concerned about the safety of everyone also.
Right.
We're behind you 100%, but that intersection needs to be fixed.
Mm-hmm. So what we'd like to do is gather community resources, lay people, staff, council members if they wish, and push NCDOT or push the Metropolitan Planning Organization to address these issues before more lives are lost.
Stephen,
Yes,
is Vision Zero, does that includes crosswalks, new sidewalks?
Yes, sir.
How's that money allocated? Is it through grant funding, or is it money matched, or how's it?
Both. Currently, North Carolina ranks in one of the top 15% of the entire states across the country for problems with bike ped issues, with number of fatalities. So there's a lot of federal dollars flowing right now from the Department of Transportation down to the state level, that some require like an 80-20 match, some doesn't require any match. So the more that we can adopt a Vision Zero policy and a group that's working on these things, the more likely we can go after this funding for those things, and perhaps whether it's a match or actual outright funding to address intersections like Mills and 11 or something.
Now, I know you said y'all work with Greenville. What is one of the projects that someone would identify, that y'all have worked?
Do you want me to answer? So if you notice, I would say, you want to say Arlington or you want to say Charles? Charles and Ficklin, okay. So we know we have a lot of pedestrian traffic going to the stadium at Ficklin Stadium. So adding some of the bollards and some of the ways where you prevent left turns into certain ways and right turns out actually makes turning and has reduced the number of crashes significantly. You'll see that also by Smithwick and Arlington, where they've added some plastic bollards, and just that has allowed people to avoid crashing into each other.
Yeah.
So those are some simple solutions, but again, every community is different, and that's why you get fire, police, public works together, you get the community members, you get the business leaders, and you have public meetings or hearings about this task force, and they say, okay, this is what we're proposing, and a lot of the simple solutions. The former chief of Greenville, I think, put it nicely. He'd rather develop more medians than memorials on the roads for people. This is one way we can establish a task force to work towards getting that funding to address things that the typical NCDOT TIP funding and all that metropolitan stuff takes decades, if ever, to address it.
Okay, all right. Well, thank y'all both for coming. Thank y'all both for sharing this with us, and we will be definitely getting back with you all.
Okay?
And
Thank
letting
you very
y'all know.
much. I appreciate it.
Okay,
Thank you for coming.
and also a little plug for our traffic garden is coming up. Hope to see all our council people out on October the 29th at 2 o'clock. I think the ceremony is at 2:15. But if y'all can get out there about 2 o'clock so that you can really look at the traffic garden, it's at Hillcrest. Evan has done a tremendous job leading us through all this. When I can't make meetings, I know Evans is there, and he's done an excellent job.
He's
So-
he's attending for us all
Yeah,
from time to
yeah.
time.
So the Parks, Recreation Department has done an excellent job, so we appreciate that, Evan. But just a reminder, I was going to bring it up, but yeah, the traffic garden and the symposium, what they was talking about, I think it starts on the 27th at the Heart Institute. I think I've registered. I don't know if anybody else was registered. So it starts on a Thursday, goes through Saturday. And we're expecting a big crowd over at Hillcrest. So if you're out and about, you want to see what the traffic garden is all about, I advise you to come over. Try to get there early because parking is kind of limited, but we want you there. And thank y'all again for y'all support and help too. Next up is it's National Manufacturing Month, and I met this young man eating dinner, and Jason Rowe at ECU College of Business.
Thank you for having me. First of all, I just want to say that when the speakers who spoke before me mentioned about the growth in Winterville and what's happening, and with that comes challenges with the traffic, I'm here because of the growth as well. So I came to ECU in 2010 as an assistant professor in the College of Business, and we lived in Winterville. We moved into Winterville over on Corbett Street and lived there for several years. So I know the area well. My kids grew up here. I have an 18-year-old, a 16-year-old, 11-year-old daughter. My 18-year-old's on the road. My 16-year-old's getting on the road. And what you all are talking about is far more important than what I'm going to talk about right now, to me personally. So over my time at ECU, I became the director of the Bureau of Business Research. We're housed in the College of Business at ECU. We focus on things like economic development. So if anyone's familiar with the West New Bern development down in Craven County, for example, the Weyerhaeuser did. So I personally did the retail market analysis for that project. A colleague did the economic impact study for that project. So those are the types of things we're doing. We're running a statewide research program for the North Carolina Pandemic Recovery Office. It's possible there could be people in this room who are respondents to that monthly survey. It goes out across all 100 counties of the state. We have a dashboard on the NC Pro, the Pandemic Recovery Office website, that reports out our data monthly, tracking the progress around food, housing, childcare, elder care, technology, and transportation across the state. And so as I'm doing this work and I'm looking out across the state and doing the work with the folks in Raleigh, I ask myself, we have neighbors right down the road, right? And when I met with Mayor Hines in the restaurant, we talked, I'm like, I don't know that the folks here realize what's going on just a few minutes down the road out of my office, and the services we have and the people we have that are available to help and do things here. And part of ECU's mission is to focus on the region, to have a positive impact on the region where we live. And to me, that starts right here where I've been since 2010, working in the community. So whether it's economic impact work, feasibility studies, any kind of industry or market analysis that may be needed, if there's a business in the area that is struggling or needs help, we're there to help and talk about those things with those businesses. Specifically, this evening, I wanted to mention that Friday was National Manufacturing Day, and we are celebrating October as Manufacturing Month for manufacturing Eastern North Carolina. I think, and the story that I tell people when I go to Raleigh or across the state, is when you look at North Carolina, If you want land and you want labor, then you look east. We've got the land, we've got the labor, we're developing access to the deepwater ports in Virginia to bring manufacturing back, reshore manufacturing back into the eastern part of the state. I think that eastern North Carolina is perfectly positioned coming out of the pandemic for the changes we're going to want to see, where companies are going to want to get closer to their customer, so they're going to want manufacturing closer to their customer. As one company does it, competitors across the industry are going to need to do it. So we have our eye on manufacturing, in particular advanced manufacturing. We have an aerospace initiative that we're working on as well, in addition to all the other research services and things that we have that we provide to folks around the area. So my message that I just wanted to make sure I brought tonight is we're here to help. And I was very excited to have an opportunity. I've talked to the mayor a couple of times. We've coincidentally run into each other and had some conversations. We're here to help, and we want to help, and we're right down the road with anything that that you may need in terms of economic development and those types of things. There's a lot going on in Winterville. You've got Pitt Community over here. The aerospace initiative I'm involved in, the community college network, is going to be a huge part of that, because we're looking at where the training can happen and then the pathways to the full-time positions. The community college is going to be there to deliver on that. Pitt Community will be a very, very important part of that, and it's an important part of what you all have going on here. So that was my purpose for coming tonight, was to introduce myself to leadership and to everyone, and to let you know I'm here, we're here, and we're ready to help in any way we can.
Thank you, Mr. Rowe. As people know about me, is I'm all about partnership. I think that's the way you can get things done. When we talked, I thought it was a good idea to have you come, because I'm all about economic development. And so we appreciate you coming and sharing that with us. We're looking forward to working with you, and maybe the town manager might call you on some stuff.
Absolutely.
She might need
Nice
some.
to meet you.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
well, we appreciate you.
Yes,
Thank you.
Appreciate the time.
Next up is our public comment section, and I'm tasked to read this before we open up the public comments. The public comment period of 30 minutes provide an opportunity for residents to comment on any item included in the agenda to address the town council on sections of the agenda. Residents should address the council at the time the mayor invite public comments on items. Lord, I missed my place. Comments on items. No public comments may be made to the council during the meeting, limited to a maximum of 3 minutes, and no more than 3 speakers may address the, by speaker may schedule the matter for further consideration at further council meetings. Lord, I don't mean to miss this. I can't see. Hold on, let me get my glasses, people.
I hope you stay. I don't know.
Oh. Wow, I apologize. All right, let's start back over right here. Addressed by a speaker may schedule the matter for further consideration at the future council meeting, or may refer matters to the town staff for disposition. Copy of the town public comment policies are available in the rear of the assembly room. Lord, woo, thank you. First up we have, yeah, I know, next time large print, yeah. First up we have Miss Brandy Daniels. If you would step to the podium, state your name and your address, please.
Meaning where I live, or what?
Yes, please.
Okay, sorry. My name's Brandy Daniels, 2945 Box Glove Drive in Winterville, North Carolina, which is also Lurie Meadows. Here. Great. I wanted to make sure I stayed within time. Good afternoon, board, and also residents. My name is Brandy Daniels. My preferred pronouns are female pronouns. My husband and I relocated to Winterville 7 years ago, and I wanted to make sure that I took time to just express my being upset with the post made by the chief of police. The post was actually made on August 23rd. Since then, the post has garnered 3.7 thousand comments, 1.9 thousand reactions, and was shared 328 times. I don't have time, obviously, to explain the post, but if you chose to do that for the residents, you could. And I'm choosing not to focus on, obviously, we can agree on the unprofessional. I just want to focus my time towards the systems in place that would allow this to happen consistently without any concern of any repercussions. Since the post, I haven't seen or heard anything from town council collectively, and of course, obviously, some things are human resources, and so some things cannot be mentioned. However, in my field, however something is discussed is the same way you discuss that to bring some closure to it. I'd also like to apologize to the entire family involved. They are part of our community, and deserve the same respect as anyone else in Winterville, and I would like them to have their apology public as well. I now want to go on how we can make things better in the future. A few things. According to the U.S. Census, the town of Winterville is currently 30% African American, or people identify as 30% African American. That means that 1 out of 3 people identify as African American, and I do as well. We'll need to know, all of our staff will need to know how to interact, and more specifically with African American men. Our men are not suspicious, and believe it or not, I have brothers, and we have also been taught and trained to have as limited exposure and interaction with police as possible, primarily because sometimes things can go wrong unexpectedly, as we probably could tell by this situation. I'd also like to ask the town, if not already, to have the expectation that all of our staff would begin to participate in some type of diversity, equity, and inclusion training. Also, here's another suggestion, possibly a citizens committee review board. When these complaints come in, it's possible that we could have someone to review those, to give review on whether or not something was happening that shouldn't have happened or not, that's unbiased. Obviously, if you had a chance to read everything, you know that the young man obviously didn't have a legal obligation to do anything. And when there are complaints, it's important that we have someone who's unbiased who can look at that. I'm running out of time. I also think we need to look at the police union contract, and I just hope everyone's here to serve everyone and be an ally for everyone involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Tony Green. Is it Tony Green?
One of our original members of our Recreation Commission.
Good evening. My name is Tony Green. I stay at 2856 Laurie Meadows Way in Winterville. I'm on the HOA board for our community out there, and we have major concerns of, of vehicles going through stop signs, not stopping, also speeding. And after observing vehicles running stop signs and not adhering to our 25-mile-per-hour speed limit in our Laurie Meadows neighborhood, we feel that we need speed bumps to help slow the traffic down, and also maybe monitor people going through the stop sign. I don't know how many officers we have, but I think it would be a good idea to maybe have one of them posted somewhere where they might could catch somebody going through the stop sign. We started a petition. Petition went real well, and we praying and hoping that y'all will let this pass, because it's all about safety. I heard somebody talk about safety. And we also have small children in our neighborhood as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
On this issue about the speed bump, Mayor, can I?
Before you answer.
Okay.
Mr. Green, by any chance, do you have that petition?
Right now, I have to get it printed off.
Uh-huh.
I don't know, but I do have it.
If you, Yeah, if you would you get it to the town clerk, Mr. Harvey, when you get it printed off? Or you can,
Or email
or
it.
email it,
Mr.
that's what I was
Green.
gonna say.
That's, if you
Get
could do that.
Mr. Harvey's email address, and you can email it to Mr. Harvey. Okay, now,
Thank you.
Mr. Moore.
Mr. Green, wait till you come back up. Do you know exactly how many single-family homes that you have in your HOA?
Well, we have 60.
Okay, out of that 60, approximately how many that you think that you received on the petition?
We had 33, and then others that are like family members to the other people in the neighborhood also signed the petition as well.
So, sound like a request then.
It's definitely, that's a good number, so, well, Mr. Green, what we normally do is once we receive the petition, council has historically tasked staff with going ahead and studying the area, and then we'll be back to report. Usually we try to do that in the next regular meeting about what police and public works and looking at the entire area about placement, what they found in terms of speeding and violations, that kind of thing. So we'll definitely reach out to you once we get your email and let you know when that's back on the agenda so that we can keep up with the neighborhood on how the request is going.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Moore. Consent agenda.
So move.
Second.
All right, got a motion and a second for the consent agenda. Motion made by Councilman Moy, second by Councilman Smith. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. All right, what is it now? The business?
Full business.
Oh, business.
All right.
Mhm.
Folks, we do have the cemetery regulations and an update on the agenda, and I know for the last couple of months, we've pushed it along to give council an opportunity to sort of take into consideration some of the things we've talked about. The purpose of tonight is to give you an update, number one, on the expansion project, and number two, ask for primarily approval on two areas, finalizing a price for lots in the new expanded territory. And number two, I have one specific regulation that I would like council to enact to add in our cemetery ordinance. So just to give a quick history, we have discussed the cemetery lot prices and who can purchase and all of that since I've been here since 2009, at least 8+ times. And you guys have done a really good job of enacting regulations to try to address circumstances that we had ongoing at the time. Basically, where things stand, and Anthony, I'll ask that you jump in if I misstate anything, but I currently think that people who reside in town obviously can purchase, I believe, if we had plots to sell, could purchase up to 4 plots. I think it's in a year. Is that right, Anthony? Do you recall? Of course, it's been so long since we had any to sell, so, and then over time, based on the fact that we were getting fewer and fewer numbers of plots to sell, we basically did away with someone's ability outside of town to purchase cemetery lots. We did come back in 2012 and enact a regulation that basically said the town would sell cemetery plots to individuals who reside outside of the corporate limits or the territorial jurisdiction and who have a spouse, child, sibling, or parent interred within the cemetery and can prove documentation to establish that relationship, but they would be limited to a purchase of a total of 2. Obviously, that went by the wayside as the initial section became full and we had no more lots to sell. So in terms of regulations, I guess I said I would ask for 1 regulation, but it would really be 2. We would ask that we continue to be able to sell cemetery plots to, obviously, people who reside in the town of Winterville, and currently not sell to people who live outside of Winterville, based on what we've been doing historically. And also, we would ask that you add to the regulations that in the new expanded area, we not allow headstones to be erected, but that we would come up with a unilateral place to purchase and all of the markers and the slabs of concrete or marble that people could purchase that would include a vase to people, for people to be able to put flowers.
Flat
Yes.
stones,
Mhm.
flat stones.
Flat stones, that's a good way to put that. So they would be the regulatory changes that I would ask. That would be to not allow headstones moving forward in the new area, and to continue with the policy of allowing people that reside in town to purchase, but currently not sell to people who live outside of town.
Okay.
Well, also, they cannot sell their lots to someone else.
That's correct. Now, I do believe that you cannot sell directly to someone else, but we have allowed, obviously you can sell it back to the town. And we would purchase it at whatever price it was at the time that you purchased it. So I would obviously think that that could certainly consider to be the case, that we would not allow people to sell outside to someone else directly, but they would have to come back through the town to do that. So if I could get an action on the regulatory side of things, then I will jump to the lot prices.
Okay, for you, and make sure, Mr. Attorney, is this fine?
Yes, sir.
Okay, as far as the resale and all that, I just wanted to make sure,
Yes, sir.
because it's a
Works
deeded,
within our
it's a
normal
deeded
practice,
property.
what we do.
Correct.
I'm sorry?
I said, because it's a deeded property, right?
We provide cemetery
Yeah,
deeds, yes.
cemetery
That's
deeds.
why
Right,
it's-
right.
It's a deed from the town
Uh-huh,
to the
right.
person who's
Right,
purchasing the
right.
lot.
Not recorded, I mean, I guess someone could record it at registry's office, but they typically do not. It's
Okay.
just a piece of paper for the town to the new owner called a cemetery deed. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
I just wanted to make sure, for clarification for people out there. Now, Mr. Moore,
I make a motion, we take those two recommendations and pass them to not allow people outside town to purchase, and number two, not have headstones, but have flat
Markers.
Right.
And what we'll do is, once we contact other cemetery owners who have a like regulation, find out where they send people to purchase those, then we'll get some unilateral information together and out to everyone.
do we need to handle this as two separate motion, or can we combine both?
I just did them together.
You did them together?
You can do them together,
Okay,
yes.
all right. Thank you, Mr. Moore. Do I have a second on this motion? Okay, got a second. Motion made by Mr. Moore, second by Councilman Rice. Can you restate that?
That we not allow people outside of town to purchase lots and not allow monuments above ground, except on the surface.
All right. Y'all heard the motion as spoken. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
You didn't call for the question,
Call for the question, I'm sorry.
and that's where I come in.
Okay.
I don't mind the regulations. I know that they're very different than what we've been doing. But I would ask if we could, we're talking about it tonight, our public is hearing it, and I know a lot of people are just, people have contacted me, let me know when they start selling plots. I would like for us to give our community a month, just till November, to hear about these regulations and respond to them and get acquainted with what we're going to do in the new session. Just for the sake of the fact that I know this is a significant issue in our community. And I would feel better if people had a month to know what we're doing. I don't see anything wrong with discussing it, but just give a month to let them get acquainted with it
You mean before a vote? Is that what
before we
you're-
actually vote on it.
Well,
Anything passed tonight can be reversed next month. It can come back up next month, we reverse it.
well, right now, we have, as it stands, we have a motion and a second on the floor. If Mr. Moore would like to rescind that we could, but.
That's just my unreadness.
Well, let's go on with the vote. All in favor, vote by raising their right hand.
Let me ask you,
No.
I know,
You called for the question. You have a question?
yes, got a question.
All right, there we go.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. And I think basically what Ms. Robinson is asking, and I can understand what she is saying, is that we're not saying change what we got in place, but just give the people opportunity to receive this and then make it, put in action probably a month or so, or in January. We can say January. You can't purchase any of the cemetery plots until January.
Well, we're not ready to start selling anyway, and I'll give you an update on that project. But we wouldn't be putting them out there for sale before the end of the year
Now-
anyway.
So you're saying no one cannot purchase anything, not
We don't have
until,
any to sell currently.
until we have some ready to be sold?
Correct.
Now, how would that be advertised?
Well, I think what we would do, as soon as the council approves any changes in the regulations and the price, which I'm going to ask for that in just a moment, then we would certainly put our information out there on all of our normal arenas, the website, social media, certainly probably have some hard copies in customer service to hand out to people as they came in. We would contact the funeral homes that we routinely deal with. We would let them know what the changes are and try to do a really good information campaign before we actually began selling those, because we do realize it's a change from what people will see in the first section.
Because, yes, because the location, when people go out and pick their plots, they have certain positions or certain places that they would like to, to purchase that particular area. And, you
And
just
we try
don't
to-
want nobody to just go out and pick out all the ones up front and then and leave, you know what I'm saying, leave the ones that is undesirable to.
Well, we try to, in terms of the ones that we will make available for sale, that has historically been on a first-come, first-served basis.
Okay.
Now, we do know that there's an ongoing list of people who are interested. I do imagine we will have several that come forward that want to purchase in the beginning, but obviously, the more that are sold, and wherever they choose to purchase, those areas are no longer available. And it's just like in the first section, the choices become more limited the more we sell. So first come, first serve has been the most successful way that I think most places sell plots.
So again, I just want to make sure that once the plots are available, then it will be advertised through
Through our media
administration.
campaign.
We
campaign.
we anticipate getting information out there prior to any plots being available for sale. But once the next section is open and ready, we will make that announcement in the same
Announcement.
way. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Would it be here in the meeting also?
We can certainly make it in the meeting, and we'll make it in as many ways as possible.
Any more questions before we call for the vote? Any more questions before we call for the vote? All in favor, vote by raising their right hand, please. All in favor? 2, 3. All opposed? Okay, motion carried, 3, 4-1.
So, thank you, folks. The next item is, we've been talking for a long time about the cost of our cemetery plots, and I'm referring obviously to an individual space. Back in September of last year, and several times since then, you all have received the information that Finance Department pulled together, looking at areas around us, both smaller than we are as well as larger than we are, including at least one, if not more, private cemeteries. And we looked at what it costs, particularly in other towns, a resident to purchase and a non-resident to purchase. And they were all over the place. As a reminder, we currently charge, I believe it's $450 in town, and that's the what we charge. But I will say that most everyone else charges more than that. I will remind folks, obviously, this is a maintenance item for the town forever. So that is becoming more and more expensive to maintain, as you can imagine, in terms of cutting grass and then making sure that we keep things looking as good as we can. The drives, keeping those driveways up to speed, et cetera. So I am proposing that we raise the cost of an individual plot to $900 per plot. Obviously, we don't sell to non-residents currently, but historically, and I think more recently, that was almost doubled for a non-resident, but I don't know that there's any need to do that if we're not going to sell outside of town. So I'm asking council to consider enacting $900 per cemetery plot. I'm certainly open for discussion.
Is that open and closed
I think the open and closing fees separate.
separate? Is
Yes.
It's separate? I'm just asking that.
Yeah, I needed to make sure, so
Yeah.
yes, it's separate.
So
Make a
that's
motion
separate-
that we increase it to $900.
Second.
Got a motion on the floor by Councilman Smith, second by Councilman Moore, to increase the plot cost to $900. Any discussions?
That's a stand right now, it's 7, right? 750?
450.
450?
Yes, sir.
We're leaving from 450 to 900.
And that's the end time, right?
Yes, ma'am.
What?
Because before, there's no out of town.
Right.
So
There's no out.
it's it's just one price. All right. All right, we have the motion on the floor. All in favor, vote by raising their right hand. Okay, motion carried, unanimous. Anybody against it? Motion carried.
Thank you, folks. I think that's certainly going to help us continue to maintain a wonderful-looking couple of cemeteries as we currently have. Finally, I'll give you an update on the project itself, the expansion project on Reedy Branch Road. So staff has been moving forward with trying to get roadways cut in. The grid, if you will, has been put in place on paper for some time. We've actually put markers in. So we've made good progress, but due to a number of things, equipment, people being out, we're not as far along as I had hoped we would be at this time of the year, but I do think if weather continues to be decent, we can continue that work and try to look at maybe by spring to be fully ready to move forward with selling and opening the expanded territory. So we are very close and appreciate council's patience as we try to get that up and running.
On the same note about the cemetery,
Yes, sir.
what the status is on Fire Tower? The sign? Did we ever?
Looking at raising it?
Yes.
We're looking at a variety of things. I don't have a good report yet because I don't have the best option, but we are definitely looking into that, and that has not fallen off the list of things to do. We're just, because of the way it was constructed and the way it was put in, is to not damage what's currently there, trying to look at the best way to address that.
So they actually put it in the way that
There was a committee, if you'll recall,
yes.
and they met many, many, many times and worked in conjunction with Pitt Community. And so, yes, those signs were built, installed, and all as the committee and then ultimately council approved.
The design is beautiful.
Yes,
The only problem that I have is the height.
Right.
You cannot see it from,
well, I think it was one of those things, as soon as it was put in, we recognized that there was a challenge, and we've just been trying to figure out the best way to address it so that the sign itself is not damaged.
No.
Or anything done to it, we could adequately address it so that it's as beautiful as it is right now, but better seen by the traveling public.
we are working on it.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you for asking,
Thank
getting it back on the list.
Next up is revision agreement with the Winterville Rescue and EMS Incorporated.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. What we're talking about tonight is kind of streamlining our, I'll say our fiscal process with Winterville EMS, Winterville Rescue and EMS Incorporated. As you know, we've had this agreement in place for a long time, since 2009, and some of our costs associated in our budget have shifted away from equipment and to personnel and operations. Inflation has definitely hit. We lost a long-term, probably 30-year fundraiser when the company went out of business due to the owner's retirement. And what we would like to do is continue to use that money for EMS operations, but not necessarily cardiac monitors, stretchers, trucks, and things like that. We have taken steps to alleviate some of those costs. We have joined I guess we're on the third generation of the county's program for the monitors. We got new cardiac monitors coming in at time now. Also, the stretchers are now purchased with the vehicles, so that's $40,000 a pop that we've eliminated. We've also joined the Pitt County Fleet Management Program to kind of get away from those vehicle costs, maintenance costs, insurance costs. So what we would like to do is stop paying this rent payment and use the money that's in that fund for other EMS operations, whether it be personnel, salary, benefits, and things like that.
Chief, can I jump in?
Sure.
For the folks that weren't on the board when we went into this agreement with EMS, a rental agreement was put together many years ago. And as the abstract will tell you, EMS has paid rent to the town quarterly over many years. And the council decided that that rent would then be set aside in a fund and EMS could use it as they needed it. Historically, they've used it for capital purchases, but as Chief has outlined, they have sought out different ways to address these capital needs.
The costs have just shifted.
Yes, and so the challenge now is with the operation and maintenance budget. It's a very busy squad, obviously personnel and operation of a department like that, those costs have increased substantially. So they're requesting, number one, to do away with the rent payment itself. And also there's a balance in that account, and you'll see the balance amount, $150,860, and they would like to utilize that as requested as needed to operate their budgets for the future years. I don't know that that was any better stated, but I wanted to go back to the very beginning to talk about
Also, we voted, and I voted against it, glad I voted against it, to give it to the county rather than do it ourselves. And I think that's been a bad move. The former mayor supported that with me, and we thought we should keep it in-house. Support our own rescue squad here, let the money come here. Again, I'd like to propose that, to look at that down the road, if that's a good idea.
Let's just say that that is being looked at down the road. Obviously, it's a well-run department currently.
Absolutely.
And certainly don't want to fix it if it isn't broken. They just need a little assistance in the change of what the monetary challenges are. Chief Brett's here. He could certainly speak to it if I'm not covering it at all. But I think Chief and I have looked at it and feel like it's currently as close as the two work together. Most folks don't even know that EMS is not technically a town department.
It's an excellent job. Excellent job.
Yes, so I certainly think we support both of those requests and see that it's a proper time for that to occur.
So Chief Brett is here.
Yes, he's sitting.
If you stand up, come to the podium.
Didn't mean to put you on the spot, but I wanted folks to know you were here.
Actually covered the truck today, so I didn't have time to change.
That's all right.
Well, you look very appropriate for what we're talking about.
How do you feel about it, Chief Brett?
Oh, absolutely. Chief Moore did a wonderful job articulating exactly where we find ourselves. But we do have two full-time employees, and the EMS tax is assessed countywide, with the exception of the city of Greenville. They don't pay the EMS tax. So, we have a wonderful district here. We're very fortunate to have a good tax base, and so the county does rely. This district produces more funds than we get back to fund our squad.
Right.
But the same could be said for the Sheriff's Department and the Board of Education and everything else.
But at one time, we looked at $300,000 extra for us, if we could help them with that money. This board chose not to, but those two full-time people don't get retirement benefits, do they?
Oh, yes, they
They
do.
do.
Yes,
They're
sir.
they're town employees.
Yeah, and when you voted them a 7.5% increase, that kind of hurt my
Yeah,
budget.
yeah.
Now, I'm happy for them. I'm very happy for them. And basically, we get funded at a level that doesn't include the cost of their benefits. So we've historically tried to come up with ways to do that. We motor fuel refund tax, sales tax refunds, photo fundraiser. Our maintenance on those two ambulances last year alone was over $27,000. I mean, they are worn out. To replace one of those trucks now is about $253,000. Our insurance costs more, so hopefully you have a new truck parked over there within the next 2 weeks, I hope. So we expect our maintenance costs to go down, we expect our insurance to go down. The benefits, y'all have wonderful benefits you provide for your employees, y'all be thankful. But they're expensive, especially for someone on a family plan.
Right.
And that has hurt us. We were fortunate, we owned the building on Chapman Street. We were able to sell that. ENS Homes has done a wonderful job remodeling that. I mean, that's a win economically, I think. But
We've done several things to try to
Okay.
I'm out of ideas, so this is going to really help us.
Okay.
Well, I have to also say that Chief Britt has done an excellent job in conjunction with Chief Moore communicating challenges all along and kind of always being communicative about where things stand. So it's never been a surprise. And we were fortunate to be able to create 2 paramedic positions that work for EMS, and EMS pays their salary and benefits. It's a great deal, but Chief Britt's right, it's expensive. So that's why we think now is a good time to move forward with this new arrangement.
All right, thank you both.
Motion on the floor is that we go back and not charge the rent, and give you the money that's in the fund.
As needed to help balance the budget.
Okay, that's my motion
Thank you.
at this point.
So, Mr. Moore, you made a motion?
Yes.
Okay. All right, do you have a second?
Second.
All right, got a second by Mr. Smith. Motion made by Councilman Moore, a second by Mr. Smith. Any discussion?
We vote every year to give money back to them
Okay.
anyway, so.
All right, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Thank you both,
Thank
gentlemen. All right. Next up is new business. We got Christ Covenant Cost Sharing Agreement. That's Anthony.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. Tonight we have before you a cost share agreement with Christ Covenant School for the Long Branch Alpha Canal infrastructure upgrade. Say that twice.
How many times have you said that in recent weeks?
So what we've done is the town was in a situation where we have a Christ Covenant School who's looking to have an addition on their campus. The town sought to partner with them to increase the size of the capacity of the infrastructure they were needing for the addition. And the benefit to the town of increasing the capacity is it will allow us to close down one of our pump stations and obviously reduce the operation costs for running the pump station, as well as some of the associated risks with sewer spills and things of that nature. So it would be a gravity-fed line, and the Winterville Crossing Pump Station would be the one that would be closed down at a future date. That's not part of this project, but the agreement before us discusses the cost of that, which is the town's portion will be $132,563, and that's the difference in what they were going to pay and what we asked them to increase the capacity by. So we went from an 8-inch line to a 15-inch line. The cost of going from 8-inch to a 15 after bids was $132,563.
Now, beside it, you got another facility being built, that 24-acre site.
Yep, that's correct. And so that's kind of the general reason why we needed it. Mr. Lassiter can explain the actual agreement a little bit better if he feels called to.
I'll be glad to jump in. Thank you, Anthony. Working together with Anthony and the town manager, I prepared a cost share agreement. This document that you have before you was based on the prior cost share agreement that we have with Bill Clark Homes and Eli Ridge subdivision. So I guess the concept in the document is for most of you, is not brand new. It's what we did in 2020 with Eli's Ridge and Bill Clark Homes. And as Anthony said, the document does two or three things, but the primary thing it does, it says the school wanted a sewer line this 8-inch. We asked them to oversize it to 15-inch, and we're willing to pay the difference. And it lays out how we pay the difference. They've asked us to do it as progress payments over sort of 3 payments, and that's all laid out in the agreement. I've spoken with the attorney that's representing Christ Covenant School. They are looking at the agreement today and tonight. They've asked for one, I would say, minor change that I've spoken with the town manager about and Anthony about, and I've responded back to them, but that was something that was relatively minor. I'm happy to answer any questions you have of me. I will point out one other thing, and you may recall this from 2020 with Bill Clark Homes. We typically are required to do competitive bidding when we go out and bid something like this. However, the statutes allow us to not do that under certain circumstances, and statute 168-320 basically says that if the cost to the town is not more than $250,000, and again, it's not, as Anthony said, it's $132,500. And if we meet one of 2 requirements, and one of those requirements says the coordination of separately constructing the improvements would be impractical, and I would submit to you that it is. It wouldn't make sense for them to put in their 8-inch line and we come beside it with another 8-inch line. Let's combine the 2. And quite frankly, it'd be cheaper to all of us if we combine it. So I would say that it would be impractical. If you find that's the case, then we can sort of sidestep the public bidding process. So in a minute, we'll ask for a motion on Mayor. I just want to make you aware of that motion on that.
Well, I will say it did go through a bid process, though, and they did receive 2 bids. So there were competitive bids received. It's just, we don't have to go through the full formal process that we normally would.
Keenan, that's the same process we went through with Eli's Ridge.
Correct. Same thing we did with Eli's Ridge. Yes, ma'am. So subject to any questions you may have of me, that's sort of my update. I'll kick
The
it
only
back.
thing I might would add is if the council so desires to move forward, that we kind of have a stipulation in there that we finished the negotiations with Christ Covenant, that town manager have the authority to move forward with any minor changes associated with such as we negotiate some of these payment items. But in a matter of essence of time and trying to get the project underway and not hold up anything, the majority of the contract everybody's in agreement with. Mr. Lasser has spoke with their attorney, and we're only worried about some small nuances that may change as their board is discussing it as well.
In the motion, I'm going to suggest in a few minutes, if you're so interested in moving that direction, would say that as long as it's non-substantive matters, if anything's substantive, we're going to stop and bring it back to you for your consideration.
Make a motion to approve the agreement with any small amount of change to be made, they would have made by the town manager.
And subject to the school also approving it. So subject
to the school.
There we
also
go.
approved.
So we got 3 little parts to that.
All right. So y'all ask me, who's second? Who's going to second? Any got a second?
Second.
All right. Motion made by Councilman Smith, second. Motion made by Councilman Moore, second by Councilman Smith. Any discussion? All right. All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, motion carried. Second.
No, I was going to say, Anthony, it's a fairly short construction time period, correct? So the idea is that, assuming weather's good, we move forward, it should be a relatively short.
Yeah, it also affects ACES for Autism
yeah.
project that's going on adjacent to it, so.
The second motion I would ask for would be that the council finds that the cost of the project is less than $250,000 and that the coordination of separately constructed improvements would be impractical. This keeps us in conformity with the statute. Practicable.
Practical.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved. I have a second. Second. Got a motion by Councilman Moore, second by Councilman Rice. Any discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. All opposed?
Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you.
Good deal for everyone.
And I have one other thing, if I could, Mayor. In discussions with the school, with the attorney for the school, I was asked if I would consider being willing to assist the school and ACES for Autism in what I'm going to call the side agreement that has to do with this line. And I told them that, of course, that for me to do that, I would need to get your okay to assist them with that project. The town would not pay for any of that. This would be me assisting the school and ACES.
And that is an agreement between those two parties. The town has nothing to do with that agreement.
Make a motion we approve.
Second.
Dean to be a part of that agreement.
All right. Have a motion by Councilman Moore, second by Councilman Smith, to allow Mr. Lassiter to work with Covenant and ACES. Now, question.
Question to Mr. Anthony.
Sir.
The ownership of that line, I know we went from an 8 to a, what? 15. Who, if anything, go wrong, the town will be responsible.
It'll be dedicated. It'll be dedicated to the town.
It'll be dedicated to the town, even though they are.
It's like other construction
It's like
projects.
other construction projects.
Yes.
I just want to make sure that we do have ownership.
Yes, sir.
Good question.
All right. So we have the motion ready for the vote. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carry.
Thank you, Mayor. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Thank you. And next up is Anthony again.
Thank you, Mayor. The next item on the agenda is the town's American Rescue Plan Act grant funding. Way back in June of 2021, when all of the items were going crazy with COVID and the world was upside down, there was a lot of things going on. But toward the end of that, we received grant funding from the federal government, and the town received $3,164,000. And so at the time, we discussed what to do with the funds and how it was going to be used, and the council agreed that they wanted to be used for stormwater. And so as time progressed and people started to work with the program as it rolled out from the federal government, there were some opportunities that arose that made it easier for municipalities to manage the grant. And so one of the things that came forward later was that supplementing salaries, wages, and fringe is a much cleaner process. However, a lot of municipalities didn't necessarily want to do that. They wanted it to go toward a project and help the community and not salaries and wages. And so what I'm presenting to you tonight is the opportunity to streamline the grant process and the red tape that goes along with it by supplementing the salaries and wages and fringe of the town, and then taking that money and moving it over to the stormwater fund. So the $3,164,000 will go to the general fund, cover salaries and wages, but then as soon as that deal closes, we transfer the money over to the stormwater capital project fund, and this will alleviate the need for all the federal regulations, uniform guidance, as well as the timelines that are associated with when the funds have to be spent. It just frees the money up. It's basically a shell game, but it is recommended by the School of Government. And so in your agenda packet, there's a document in there from the release press from the School of Government on, how this is a recommended practice. It's not a, it's okay to do. It's not anything that's, nefarious. So it's been done all over, and our auditors have actually recommended it as well. So basically, it just streamlines the process. It goes from all the bidding and the engineering and uniform guidance and all the steps associated with a capital project of construction, and streamlines it, because when we report our expenditures for the grant, it'll be all based on salaries and wages, and we can printed that right out of our financial software package, it'll be 100 times easier.
Hold on, I'm sorry. I was going to say, I think, Ms. Robinson, didn't you attend one of them sessions down when we had the league meeting? Or you or Johnny, did
Yeah.
y'all go in?
I've been to several
Uh-huh.
ARP meetings.
So normally, this is what Anthony's proposing in normal times is the exact opposite of what they'll normally allow you to do. They
Right.
normally don't let you get grant money and then replace it, if you will, for normal expenditures. But I think Anthony and I, at first, we were both like, really? But this has
Yeah.
been vetted,
Right,
I
they
think,
talked about
time
it.
and again.
So what changed was what's called the final rule. And the final rule was issued on July 27th of 2022. And so just this summer is when this change came about, and shortly after that is when the School of Government said, hey, this changes everything. And so if you receive less than $10 million, which we did, then you can, everything, in order to streamline and everything, the federal government said, wait, you can just consider this what's called lost revenue. And since it's under $10 million, we fall in that classification as to be allowed to consider it as lost revenue.
Motion to approve.
I second.
Okay. I have a motion on the floor by Councilman Smith, second by Councilwoman Robinson. Any questions? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carry.
Thank you.
On Mideast, I'm hearing lots and lots of moans and groans about this ARP money and how to use it and how quickly it can be used and trying to stay within the guidelines of it. A lot of red tape for a lot of our communities, so
It absolutely
Appreciate
is.
you.
So yes, this is going to take care of a lot of
we
that.
appreciate it.
Still gonna be a lot of work, but it'll
Right.
still be 100
Yeah.
times easier than
But
going
this
through a
was
capital
this
project.
was discussed in our training sessions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony.
Next up is the appointment of a council member to Pitt County Human Relations Commission. I was the last one to serve up there.
When is your term over?
It was over in July.
You'll be reappointed, don't you?
No, sir.
Okay.
And I do believe this has to be it has to be an elected official.
Yeah, it had to be an elected official.
How long is the term?
Year?
A year?
Yes, a year.
You gonna do it, Paul? I will do it since I
Motion to
am
approve.
Okay.
serving. Serving on this.
All right.
I'll do it for, somebody gets the library. I come off library in March, so. We said that we wanted to keep a council member up there, so it's up to you to get your application in.
Yeah.
My term ends in March,
Your
and I'll
term
take
ends.
the human relations, maybe we can correlate it together,
All right, good.
okay?
All right,
You be my substitute.
okay. Sounds good. All right, got a motion.
I
by
second.
Mr. Smith, second by Councilman Moore. That Ms. Robinson is our new member of the Pitt County Human Relations Commissions. Any questions? No questions. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, Ms. Robinson, for.
That may be one of the quickest votes I've ever.
And they also have a new representative for the Human Relations. They got a new person now. Yeah, so.
Okay.
Ms. Robertson, if you'll get with me, there's some information
Okay.
that we've got to fill out
Okay.
next day or so.
Okay.
Other agenda items is housing repair program. Councilman Moore.
We have not done any thing with the monies we've had it set aside to fix up homes, so we need to change our direction of how that to be done.
So just a reminder, when COVID came.
Right.
We we have historically budgeted $20,000 each annual budget. That's set in a fund, and our relationship with Rebuilding Together, they come in April and the spring, and they use volunteers to make these urgent repairs. Now, that work is not taking place during the COVID period, and it has currently, the anticipation is hopefully we still have a relationship that will resume. We did not budget $20,000 this year because, if you'll recall, of the money that's currently sitting in the fund and the balance for, that currently sits there. So,
Well, I've spoken with Cornell Solution, and they're interested to help, with the repairs or whatever, but I think we need to sit down with you and kind of talk with you first before they decide that they want to venture into this.
How many applicants do we have at this time for funds?
less than 5.
Less than 5?
Because they feel like they can get out in the community and they have the resources to be able to get out in the community.
Right, and again, if you'll recall, it's $5,400 per home, up to $5,400 per home. So therefore, Rebuilding Together was doing the income verification, all of those things the town is not set up to do. So we will need an entity that can do those same type of things. And I'm not suggesting Rebuilding Together's out. I'm just suggesting that it has not resumed due to the COVID pandemic.
I mean, I think both of them, if it could work out, that we could have two entities that could help,
Ms. Robertson has a suggestion, I believe.
I had a question. In that grant money, we never included any administrative costs. We don't have any allowances,
Nor has any been requested.
yeah.
Just to be clear, that none had been requested by Rebuilding Together. Now, granted, we did not fund them in the non-town agency process this year. Not for the Winterville program, but for their program outside of the Winterville program.
And we all know that agencies that do that, they do incur a cost in administering programs. So that's something I feel that we need to consider in our grant money.
They do work in Winterville outside of the Winterville Urgent Repair Program, so they do continue to, so we have an age limit, and you have to own your own home and be current on taxes, both city and county. Their work outside of our specific program, doesn't necessarily have those same criteria. So, in other words, they continue to do work in Winterville, so,
Yeah.
yes, there is a
And
cost.
that's extra work for them to
Yeah.
do. I know that we haven't done it in the past, but I do think that we need to include within that grant some kind of administrative costs to the agency, no matter which agency, but to an agency to do it. They do have costs, and we know it.
I mean, only if they ask for it. I mean, if they don't ask for administrative costs, I mean.
How much money is in the account at this time?
I should have been prepared to answer that question. I don't know off the top of my head, but we'll get that out. And certainly let
With
council
winter
know.
coming, I hate for that money to sit there if somebody's really in dire need. We got people who need it now. I hate for it to sit there just because we hadn't taken action. Move forward.
Well, I'd certainly, again, we need an entity that can do the things we're not set up to do. We're not set up to income verify these folks. So I really don't want to be in that business. So we need an entity that knows how to do that stuff.
And I'm not advocating that we pay someone who is doing it for free, who's willing to do that, or have funds that they can do it for us without incurring the cost. I'm just thinking that, we might run into that problem with agencies that will administer the program.
Can we ask Committee's Commission to do that for us?
We could ask.
Yeah.
Sure.
We need to ask. I think Ms. Robertson's on that board. Ask her to ask them, can they administer the program to help people in need this coming winter?
We can ask and see what happens. But that's the way that their people are paid, by the administrative costs that go along with grants. But if we can use that, we got a Cornelia program here, Community Solutions, and we can also include them and Rebuilding Together.
And actually, we can discuss Cornelia in more detail, find out kind of specifics, but then try to have a collective meeting to see, who's available to do work outside of the normal springtime, when the weather's good.
Come back with a report in November, how we're going to do it? Time enough? Find out?
We can try.
Okay.
I got one question to Mr. Moore. Can you have some clarity on what you mean by emergency with the winter
We've
coming
got
up?
people now
Like,
who
give me
need
an
money,
example.
Like a hot water heater,
A hot water heater.
right,
Uh-huh.
a roof.
Yes.
We got a house on Mill Street that's had a roof for 2 years.
Uh-huh.
They applied?
Yes, but we're not going to get a roof fixed for $5,400.
Oh, not?
No, I doubt it. Roofs are not something, unless it's been a very small repair, that we've been able to fund. However, that's not to say Rebuilding Together couldn't look at them through their program.
I feel for those people.
And I don't know if they meet the qualifications or not, because I'm not exactly sure who we're
Let's
talking
come back
about.
with back report in November meeting.
Okay, we'll try to come back and report where we are.
All right.
But again, our program's for urgent repairs.
Right.
The thing, anyway, regardless of the time of year. So,
Okay, next up, any items for further agenda on future work sessions? Anybody have any? Okay.
Yes. Well, I have to rub my head on this. The one that I have a concern with, and I know there has not been any comment on, and it's some things that we just can't make comments on at this time openly. And it's pertaining to the presentation that Ms. Daniels presented tonight. And I think that we need to have a work session on some of the ideas and some suggestions, and also go beyond the walls to see what we can do and do different. It goes back to what they presented with the safety, the way that you used to do and how you do things now. Now they presented zero, no tolerance, You got to change with the changes, and it's time. So I'm just saying to us that, we have been set and doing things the same. We might need to start looking at, and we are listening to our citizens. And I think that we probably need to have some sort of,
But on the other side of that, I'll say this, that's why we're one of the safest towns in North Carolina to live in,
yes,
because of what we have presently.
right.
So I don't want us to go down from number 1, 2, 3 down to number 35, 40. Safest towns in.
Well, and that is when you look at the fight too, Mr. Moore, that we was a very small community, and we're constantly growing.
But
And also with that in mind, with growth, you're going to have other issues and other concerns. So we got to be able to stay up with the growth that we have.
we only have 1% growth in 10 years. That's not much growth in 10 years. Pitt County only grew 10.
Hold on, gentlemen.
Okay.
Let's stick to what the thing said. Work session.
A work section,
Work
yes.
session, now, what are you proposing?
That's my proposal.
And your proposing is what for the work session?
To come up with ways and means, some of the ideas that was presented to us tonight from the comment from Ms.
I
Daniels.
think we're gonna have something in maybe Miss Parker's. Miss Parker's, at the end. If she doesn't, I have something that I will speak to.
I mean, I have an update
Right.
on, and it's going to coincide with.
Well, since we already, since it's up, you want to go ahead on and
If council.
share it, if you don't mind?
If
I
you
don't
want to go
mind,
ahead, because, yeah, I think it needs to be shared because we've been, okay.
So, Ms. Daniels referenced training for employees
Yes.
in diversity, equity, inclusion, and I think that we deem that critically important. So I have reached out to my cohorts across the state, actually, to see who folks have been using, and I've looked at places as large as Durham and as small as, I don't have a good example, but there are some smaller entities, because a lot of people responded, and I was really encouraged by that, as to who they're using and who can come and do on-site training, because there are some remote possibilities available, but I think something as important as what we're talking about needs to be in person. So I think that we're trying to find folks that can come here and do it in such a way that we can touch all departments and all employees, because we feel like that's important enough. Everyone needs training, and hopefully if council's available, potentially they could be in that training as well. So that's something I'll be reporting in the near future, and something we've already been working on now for quite a bit of time. I was trying to look at my notes here, just a second.
Need my glasses.
I need to take mine off so I can read. I think we've also obviously been working internally to address communication in some of the ways that, how things are done, make sure everybody's on the same page with how certain information rolls out. So I feel confident that the internal things that need to be addressed have been addressed accordingly. I don't think we've been doing business the same way recently, and I think we're open to change, and we're certainly wanting, not just in the police department, but just as a whole. I mean, we have grown quite a bit, and therefore we know that's going to necessitate changes in the way we do things, and we want to be open to those and take a look at how we can do things better. So communication, I'm all up for. We're not a unionized state. We don't have collective bargaining, so that doesn't apply here. And fortunately, I think that's a good thing that we don't have to have that entity that has to come to the table. But certainly, we are open for people to come forward and make suggestions and try to look at ways, again, not just the police department, but as a town as a whole and how we move forward. But I do think that some of this training is critically important, and getting that done as soon as reasonably possible is high on my list. I don't know if I left off anything.
No, because only thing I was going to say, from day one, me and Ms. Parker had been discussing this. We've been talking about this, and we was just waiting. I was waiting for her to bring forth this information that she was going to utilize, because I deemed it critical myself. When this thing first happened, we sat down and we talked about it, and we looked at it from a standpoint not just only one department, but all departments, because all departments need to be able to de-escalate things, whether it's someone taking funds for utilities to our public works guys working out in the field. You know, when they encounter someone, they need to know how to address someone. So,
and what we want to do is look at beyond just de-escalation,
Right.
but also, creating relationships
Right.
and a community sense of how to move forward. So it's a lot. We know there's a lot of work to be done.
So, with that being said, yes, we have.
I want to say something.
Well, let me finish first.
Okay, you go right. Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you were through.
No, ma'am, I wasn't.
Excuse
through.
me.
Yes, ma'am. But, those are the things, and like she said, it's not just important for the departments, but I think it's also important for us as a council to be in these sessions. I know we all have busy lives and everything else, but when we are voted on to represent the town, I think we need to be a part of these sessions. We can have all the sessions you want, but you got to be a part of it, and we need to be held accountable. So, when these sessions come, we need to be a part of them. That's what I was going to say, Ms. Robinson.
Excuse me, I wasn't cutting you off. I thought you were moving to something else. I find that, with the situation that we've dealt with, everybody didn't know about it.
That's true.
And that was disheartening to me, because I was one of those who didn't know. And I felt like, this deals with the whole council, but somehow the communication broke down that we didn't know about what was going on that totally affected us, our town, and everything. And that's something that I think we need to really look at, is making sure that when I say emergency situations, because I consider that situation an emergency situation that we may be confronted with by our citizens or other people, that we are aware of what's happening in the community that affects town government. We're part of town government, and we're elected to represent the whole town because we're voted on by the whole town. that we aware of those kinds of, things that are going on. And I know that we don't always want to put things out there in, but we also have closed sessions. And we are, tied by confidentiality. But it bothers me that, I was completely out of the loop for a long time
Well,
about the situation.
for you,
Okay.
are you finished?
Yeah, I'm
All right, but there was an email sent, correct?
Yes.
There was an email sent, so you knew about what was going on.
Now, again, it wasn't
Interim.
that
Right.
day,
Right.
or, I mean, we had to look into
Right.
circumstances, but I was trying to find the date.
But you can find the date, but there was an email sent, but we ain't gonna broadbeat this to death, so, but while she's finding the email, there was an email that was sent out to all council members, once everything
It was
happened.
August 31st.
August the 31st, right. All right. But any more items for work session? If not, we're going to move on to reports from department heads.
Our folks are excited to present these quarterly reports this evening, but they have been instructed to be quick.
Thank you, Mayor, Town Council. It's good to see everybody tonight. So it's been mentioned a couple times, the ACES for Autism campus. We did give final approval for that site plan a couple weeks ago. If you've been by the site, you've seen a lot of movement out there, but we're excited about that. If any of you don't know what ACES for Autism is, it's a treatment and educational center for the autism community, not just in Winterville, but the eastern part of the state and hopefully far beyond. Also, if you guys didn't know, they are having a groundbreaking ceremony tomorrow at 4 o'clock. So if you can attend, please mark your calendars. You guys received some information from me regarding a planned unit development that we've got coming. The UNC property that we commonly refer to it as, that's a rezoning application for that planned unit development. So we're having a community meeting, an outreach meeting hosted by the applicant. It'll be in this room next week, the 20th. So they're going to have 2 sessions. Hopefully you guys can join one of them from 11 to 1, so around lunch, and then 6 to 8. It'll be a floating type deal. So you guys were familiar with our charrette style comprehensive land use planning outbreak sessions. It'll be similar to that. So they're really just trying to get feedback and establish a vision and cast their vision to the community before they go before P&Z and then ultimately to you guys. But with that, that's all I've got. I'll answer any question you guys have of me.
I have a statement to make. Before you have more growth in that area, fix the roads. Look at Cooper Street. Looks terrible. Then Laura Ellis is going to look terrible. You just got it paved. So before in the development of any property that large,
Sure.
what's the DOT going to do about our roads?
So DOT,
They allowed all those houses to have road frontage. So the DOT people who were in charge of that, when that was approved, when it was straight to the road, I'd like to know who the DOT people, we should go back and say, okay, who approved that poor design of allowing people to have driveways straight to the road?
yeah, that was a common design that DOT used to allow. They ultimately don't allow that anymore,
Right.
obviously, and we don't either. But there is resurfacing projects coming. I think town manager sent out an email a couple months ago giving that schedule. Cooper Street is on that.
I believe it's the spring.
Yeah, so they were planning to do it this year, but the contract runs through
How many years
2023.
has that been planned? It's like Old Tar was planned for 2002.
It's actually not been quite that long. This actually came forward and was a little bit pleasantly surprising that there is many set to be paved, but it got put behind A.G. Cox project and several others. They had to do some work themselves, some, I'll call it culvert work, but
Our
pipe
roads,
work.
Yeah.
the roads behind, like the convenience store, beside Dick's Green, we should be ashamed of that road.
And that's our road.
That's our road.
So we are. And I think that's on the list to be paved, if I'm not
Anyway.
mistaken.
But that larger development, we need to ask DOT, are they going to help us with the roads?
True.
Thank you, Brian.
L'Oreal should be curb and gutters and Ain Street,
Thank you, Brian.
bicycle routes.
Evan?
I was told to be quick, so I'm done.
All right. Sit down there.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So just a few quick things for you. Parks Maintenance Shop, that project is underway. Architect is finalizing site and shop design, so all that's on track. Traffic Safety Guard, my thunder was stolen earlier, so I won't go back into that aside from mentioning that it's October 29th at 2:15. Oh, actually, I will mention one thing on Traffic Safety Guard. Striping is set to begin on that painting this week. It was seal coated at the end of last month. So if anybody goes over there, weather permitting on Thursday, I think it's supposed to rain. But later on this week, hopefully if the weather cooperates, you'll start seeing lines put down on there. Final movie of the year is this Friday. That is Clifford the Big Red Dog. Winterville Fright Fest, that is the Chamber of Commerce's event that we partner with, we being the town, is downtown on Sunday, October 30th from 4 to 7 p.m. And of course, Christmas is still a little ways away, but not too far not to be able to talk about it. That is December 10th. A reminder, that's Christmas parade, tree lighting, market, and all of those fun events that are Winterville Wonderland. Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't forget the helmets. Pick them up. I'll
Thank
be
you.
out
I'm
of town
glad you
that week.
mentioned that.
I won't be able to make the event.
Yep, I'm glad you mentioned that. I will pass it along. Thank you.
Thank you, Evan. If I knew about the striping, I would have mentioned it. Well, I did know about it, so I didn't mention it, so. Cliff,
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Some current recent changes to the CDL regulations have kind of put us in a bind. I know I've heard some stuff about streets looking bad, need to be swept. Just so y'all understand, we're down to 3 guys in Public Works for CDLs right now. Current regulations are, they have to attend a school that takes 5 weeks. And 2 of those guys that were here this evening are in that school. So we're trying to obtain some CDLs for all those guys. So that's going to get better. It's just
Cliff, we
gonna
have
take some
5 currently seeking
We do have
CDLs.
5 total in the school. And we have, I think there's 3 positions maybe we can hire for. So we're trying to get back currently staffed like we're supposed to be. We were down to 7 guys in Public Works as of May. We're up to 11 now. Hopefully we'll get fully staffed soon, so that's going to get better. We had a knuckle boom truck that Anthony was working on a grant for, but we have decided to keep that truck due to some recent circumstances where that truck played a major factor in keeping our routes going because one of our newer trucks is broke down. The town's growing, as we all know, so we need more trucks in these routes along with more drivers. So we're going to keep that truck as a way to keep the routes going, especially when one goes down. So I think if Anthony corrects me, we're going to opt out of that grant to keep this truck. So that'll help us with everything we got going on in the growth. And we recently did a local water supply plan where it was brought to my attention that we only had 2% of unaccounted for water, which is very low. According to the state standards, they want it between 5 and 15. So y'all will probably get some calls. What's this?
Please talk into the
Oh,
mic so everybody can hear you.
You're probably going to get some calls about how much we're flushing in the coming weeks and months. But we have to turn some water over, and we've just been understaffed recently, so we will be flushing and also trying to purchase some automatic flushers to put on these dead ends where we're getting a lot of calls for, low water pressure, low residuals, this, that, and other. So if you get any calls about that, we are on top of it, but that's just an effort to turn over water and appease the state. So if y'all have any questions, let me know.
Mr. Cliff, you say that you're up to 11 employees now?
Excuse me?
How many employees did you say you was up to? 11?
Yes, sir. Well, no, we have 13 now.
You got 13 now?
Yeah, I said 11, but we have 13 now with the 2 new guys.
Okay, and before you had your last hiring, you were down, you only
We were
had how
down to
many?
7, yes,
You
sir.
have 7.
That was at I believe, the
Yes. That's when we
smallest
had,
number.
Yes, sir. And then we hired 6.
So you hired 6, out of those 6, 5 of them going to have to go to class for CDL.
Yes, sir.
Is
All of
that
our public
correct?
works employees are required to have CDLs on water, sewer, and the public works side.
Unfortunately, these new regulations have made it extremely expensive and have, the process is much longer now to get a CDL, so we're working around those new regulations.
Okay, and it's 5 weeks, is that correct, you said?
Yes, sir. I think they're going to cut it down to 4 because the class was so small, but yes, standard is 5 weeks.
Right.
And it's $2,700 for the Bs, $3,700 for the As. So that was $13,500 we didn't budget for, but we're going to make it.
And then you said that we had to provide our own vehicle.
Yes, sir.
They need to give us a discount for
Well-
providing a vehicle.
Their discount was if we used our vehicles, we didn't have to do the $125 additional fee for each employee. So we saved $125 per employee for using our own vehicles.
All right.
To give staff credit, though, they were able to work with Pitt, get the class going pretty quickly, so it didn't drag out any longer than was absolutely necessary, but it has put a little wrench in how quickly we can get people with their CDLs up and running.
So they are going on off times or on,
It's part of their job.
so actually, all 5 of your staff is in school at this time?
Yes, sir.
What you're
So we're
saying?
fortunately, the way the classes are set up, 1 week they're there all week. The next week they go and get their permit. If they pass the test and get their permit, they're back with us for that week. And then next week, the actual driving part starts. So we will be without all of them for 2 weeks.
Another 2 weeks.
So the guys kept the routes going even when there were only 7 of them, so I don't expect there to be any issues. But if we do get some calls or something gets behind, I'll pass it along.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chief?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I can tell you that as of Thursday, all of our sworn positions will be filled. And if the river doesn't rise and all of our students get through class, all of our police officer positions will be full. That's great news compared to every other jurisdiction that I can think of. Since COVID, we haven't been doing our holiday outreach, if that's a good word for it. So we look to rekindle this year our Shop with a Cop over the holiday season, which we usually can take care of somewhere between 6 to 9 needy families who actually reside in Winterville for the holidays. And we're going to do our big fundraiser, Cops on the Roof, where police officers from all jurisdictions will stay on the roof of Walmart until 250 bicycles are donated for Toys for Tots, and that'll happen at the first part of December. So if you're interested in coming out and getting us off the roof, hopefully it doesn't rain. And to Mr. Green, we just received in the box at the end of last week a brand-new sign from Governor's Highway Safety, the one that flashes your speed. It says what the speed limit is, and it shows your speed. And we're going to have it out there in Lori Meadows. We've got a guy breaking it out tonight, getting it charged up and figuring out how to use it. And you should see it the next couple of days out there in your neighborhood.
Okay. Any questions? Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Next, Robert.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. What's going on in the electric department? It's obviously 11 at Main. We're installing infrastructure out there. If you've ridden by, you've seen the overhead that's already been installed. Eventually, that'll tie in further south to an existing line. That'll make that a complete that circuit. We're going back and forth from there. We had a few minor changes we wanted to see at ACES for Autism in terms of easements. That's been incorporated now. Brian's assistants will be going back out there and working a little bit to get them up and going and set their transformers. Brookfield Phase 4, talked with the developer today, Section 1. We do think, even with a limited amount of received transformers, we've been very creative in using what we have and what isn't being used. So we think we can at least afford him opportunity to build 10 to 12 homes if he was ready to start tomorrow. But we'll continue installing infrastructure out there as well. Happy to report no effects from Hurricane Ian or its remnants, no outages, no fault conditions. I got an update on our transformer orders. We have 2 orders that should be here in January. And then we have the big order that you guys graciously approved that's tentatively scheduled for July delivery. Metronet update, looks like those guys are about 20% with the underground install. They're approaching 50 to 60, depending on which day you get a report. on the overhead. The big thing right now, obviously, that's impacting our community is increased costs of natural gas. We've recently had to do a rate adjustment. I will tell you that staff has been looking at ways to mitigate this as much as possible, particularly for those most impacted. We've reached out to Carolina Power Partners and asked for any way possible that they may be able to help. We tentatively, I think, have an agreement where they're willing to put some money where their mouth is and set aside some funds. Obviously, this will be administered through the Green Lamp program for some of our less fortunate residents, the ones that are most impacted, ones particularly on the fixed income, low to moderate incomes. We think that will be of great assistance. Other than that, then the top of the list is obviously going to continue to be the natural gas issue. And that's kind of my segue for the finance department.
There we go.
Robert?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Any questions?
Yes. If those funds are going to be set aside, is only going to be for the citizen in
They will be committed
Winterville?
only for those people on the town of Winterville's electric grid.
Okay.
Yep.
They got to be on our grid.
Absolutely.
Okay. It doesn't matter if you live in our town and you.
That's right. You have to be on Winterville Electric System.
We say that twice.
Winterville Electric System.
Winterville Electric, Winterville Electric.
That's right, because we do have citizens that lives here.
We absolutely do. We have many.
Many that lives here in our city limits that's with Greenville.
That's correct.
I.e. me.
All right.
Thank you, Robert.
Miss Jessica.
Good evening, Mayor and Town Council. Just a couple updates for finance, along with what Robert was saying with the new electric rate. It went into effect September 15th. It will be reflected on the bills that'll go out at the end of October for Cycle 1 and the middle of November for Cycle 2. We're in the process now of drafting a letter from the town that we'll send out to the customers, hopefully by the end of this week, to let them know about the increase and why we're having the increase. It will also include a separate letter from Carolina Power Partners explaining the reasons for the increase, and it also has tips on how to conserve energy and save money. As far as our audit this year, the auditors have completed the fieldwork for the annual audit. They are now in the process of reviewing it, and then it will be sent off to the state for review.
In terms of information being sent to the public, we anticipate doing a direct mailing. So that, in addition to putting this information out on all of our platforms, website, social media, et cetera, but people should be receiving their specific information, and that will be the two letters will be the only thing included in that mailing.
So the first full month that you will see the effect would be what, December or January? The first full month.
Well,
It went into effect September 15th, so the bill that'll go out at the end of October will have the increase on it.
They have the first full month.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So the one you received for November.
When you receive, yes, it's mailed out the end of October that you receive in the first few days of November.
Right.
It should reflect, if you're on cycle 1, it should reflect full month's increase.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, full month, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Chief Moore. Anthony.
Good evening again. I'll, just a few items bring everybody's attention to. CSX Force Main project. As you can imagine, with any construction project right now, there's a supply chain issue. So the contract was, the project was supposed to start October 5th, but due to the contractor having a difficult time getting some material, we're going to have to push that back. And of course, when we're working with CSX, that means coordinating. And so that we're looking to start that project on October 31st now. And if you'll recall, that project is putting a new replacement sewer line under the railroad track down in Church Street. We have a temporary solution there right now, but hopefully mid part of November we'll be done with a temporary solution and have a more permanent process there. And it'll be one of the first steps into increasing our capacity as sewer flows from that Church Street pump station. Ain Street project, everything's moving forward. The design is complete. NCDOT has doing its final review, but like I told you last month, they've given us preliminary approval. And then looking to solicit bids in November. And so we should have a recommendation to the council in December for award of contract. Applied for 3 grants last month. It was a pretty hairy time trying to get all that stuff pulled together, and I appreciate everybody's help on staff that assisted. There was a lot of phone calls made and a lot of digging and a lot of research had to be done for that. We did 3 stormwater grants and one sewer grant. So hopefully the resolutions y'all passed in last month's council meeting will yield some good returns for the town, hopefully. And then finally, the Powell project, we talked about the 2022 streets improvements, and you'll should start seeing some survey stakes or survey crews out in the general area to if you see that's what they're doing is getting everything lined up so they can design the project and get everything ready to submit to CSX for their cooperation. That's all I have, unless y'all have any questions.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank y'all, staff, for what y'all do for the town. Next up is going to be a report from our town attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. I have no report other than what I've spoke to tonight. Be glad to answer any questions you have of me. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Moy, starting with you. We're going to work this way.
Oh, gracious. Thank you so much
Yes,
for that
sir.
opportunity. And I just want to thank everybody that came out tonight, especially our guests here tonight and the ones that is first time coming. We ask you that please come again. Our doors open and welcome you.
Thank you. Mr. Smith?
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have anything.
Mr. Rice?
I'm glad Ian passed us by.
All right. Ms. Robinson?
Of course, I'm attending meetings, which, of course, is having some of the same problems as everyone else. Our library director had surgery. He's doing well now. And the activity at our library continues to be up. And our Human Relations Board is still forming. We've got a mission statement completed. And so we're still in the forming stages. We've had 3 successful meetings. Yes, 3 successful meetings so far, so that's it.
Mr. Moore?
First, my prayers are with Robert Sutton, lost his sister last week. I knew his sister growing up, and I knew wonderful lady. My prayers are with you, Robert. Next, I'll talk about the Veterans Day. We've been doing it since 2000. We're going to go in with the Historic Society. We're going to move it from in front of the police department to the Ainge House. We're going to move from 2 o'clock to 11 o'clock. The speaker will be an RRTC person, youth, will be speaking, no guest speaker otherwise, our age. So it'll be a young person first ever. So hope you'll be seated by 10:45, and the taps will be heard at 11 o'clock. A little different, so we've had in the past. South Central's going to be involved in it. I haven't asked Tim Sutton yet, but he's each year he's agreed to come and sing some, and I'll ask him very soon for that. Hope y'all can attend that event on the 11th at 11 o'clock. My report tonight is I'm not critical of our staff in any way, what was said tonight. I've been in education 49 years. I remember in 1974, a person put a gun up to me to shoot me for cutting lights off on Mill Street. I got back in my car and I left. We had 1 police officer at one time, and then we had none. So I drove the police car around. My first year on the board, we lost 7 out of 15 police officers were fired. for excessive force. 7 out of 15 that we had that year. Taught me a lot. The people that protect us are, there's a fine line there. It's like an education. I've been in education for 49 years. I never met a student I didn't like. I've taught everything you can name from science, sociology, economics, world geography, U.S. history, English and math, special education. We all have times that we do things, but I don't want to go overboard and deter people and try to do the best they can do. So I support our police, fire and rescue. When my wife was taken to the hospital, she did not want to go, and thankful that the EMS people came to my house and talked to her and going to give her a chance to live a little longer. And she lived another month. And when my son was killed, July 18th, law enforcement was very helpful. They started calling me at 2:30 in the morning, and our chief of police called me at church at 11 o'clock. I was sitting there, tell me what had happened that day. To this day, it's very difficult for me to sit in a church, having that phone call. So I believe in law enforcement. Sheriff Elt's father tried to get me to be a police officer years ago. I said, I don't have the temperament for it. But anyway, I respect all of our employees. I've been in your shoes from the utilities, the garbage collector, my former job, to a meter reader. You're all important. And I thank you for what you do each and every day. Thank you. That's all I have.
I do not have a report this evening.
All right. For me, if you don't have a report, for me, basically, this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month in October. You see, I wear my breast cancer pin faithfully. Sisters, mom, other family members have dealt with this. So, I encourage everybody to make sure they get themselves checked. Even men. If you remember, Richard Roundtree, Shaft, had breast cancer. So, it's prominent, and when men can have it. So, we're not excluded from it. So, take in consideration, if you got a loved one, make sure that they're doing their exams or whatever else, because we want them to be around. The other thing is tomorrow, I'll be representing the town, speaking at Basis for Autism at 4 o'clock. We're so happy to have them have their campus here. That is very big, people. They could have went anywhere else, but they chose Winterville. So hopefully that we can get out there and show all support to them tomorrow. Last but not least, it's time to go home.
Unless you want me to say one more thing. I just want to say, everybody, please keep the war that we have going on across over there to Russia and Ukraine. It's a lot going on, and there's a lot of lives that have been taken. So keep those in prayer as much as you can.
Motion adjourned.
All right, have a motion by Councilman Moore, second by Councilwoman Robinson. All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. All opposed?
Before night.
Good night.
Good night.
Mark, did I beat the